Hi, everybody. Professor Gustin here. And somehow we've made it to week 4, which means we're over the hump. So week 3 was hump week, and now we're at week 4, and it's all downhill from here. Although you do still have a pretty good amount of work, so don't lose your motivation, but the light's at the end of the tunnel. So just a couple reflections. One of them is that week 3 we had lab practical number 1, and the average for lab practical 1 was around 80%, which is really high for that. Like, I think you guys are, you're doing the work and you're looking it over, and I really appreciate your effort, but I think that was really good. So keep it up. The what we, the next 2 weeks in lab look a lot like it did before. The first 3 weeks, we have one lab practical left, and just keep it up. Don't miss assignments. It helps your grade a lot. Speaking of grades, one thing I wanted to say about them is at the end, so on Mondays, at the end of each week, what I'm doing is taking the lab grades, and I take the Brightspace page and then I put it in an Excel sheet, and I just take the grades up through whatever week we just finished, and I put those points in your Brightspace grade sheet in your lecture section. So you can look at your lecture section and see exactly what your total grade for the course is. So what I'm doing is, notice that every column for lab, the points get higher and higher. It's because it's cumulative. So the week 2 lab grade column in your Brightspace page of your lecture section is the total points you earned in week 1 and week 2. The week 3 column are the total points that you earned in week 1, 2, and 3. So I kind of remove the columns, the earlier columns. So by the time we get to week 4, you'll know exactly at the end of week 4, the start of week 5, you'll know exactly how many points you need to finish up, how many points you need to get your target grade by the end of week 5. So keep your eye on that. Any problems with grades, let me know. If you missed something weeks ago, I'm not going to give you a chance to make that up. If you miss something and you have a problem, you need to contact me immediately, and I will consider what to do about it. But keep your eyes on your grades, make sure they're entered properly, and make sure you're checking your things that I hand grade, like the lab practical, to make sure that I graded that accurately. When you do it by hand, there are chances that I make mistakes, so double check your answers. I sent an announcement, and there's an announcement posted in the lecture section about how to access your graded items, excuse me. Anyway, so here we are in week 4, and just a couple pointers on week 4. There's a bunch of virtual labs, and there's a lab quiz, and the lab quiz is a little bit more points than it's been. It's an 8-point lab quiz, so it's getting a little bit heavier with the lab quiz. There's not quite as many virtual labs that apply to the material for these last few labs. But so this week is pretty straightforward. I don't think there'll be any great big surprises. But I do want to mention something. If I go to week 4, part 2, the lab that we have there, notice that there's just 2 virtual labs, and the lab quiz is 12 points. Remember, your lab handout is over here under your lab book. So you get that lab and you work on it. This lab is the most challenging lab of the semester. In the lab, there's actual data that we collected in one of our live classes. Now, in this lab, you're going to be counting the number of bacteria. And in a single colony, there can be tens of millions of bacteria. So there's clever ways to count bacteria so you don't have to count up to 1,000,000. And that's what you're going to learn about in that lab. I do a lot of practice at the beginning of the lab to teach you how to count bacteria. So practice that, pay attention to it. Do not try to rush it. It's not the kind of thing that you can do in 15 minutes and it's all going to stick. You've got to practice it and look at it carefully. If you have questions on how to do that, contact me. I wouldn't wait to do this lab to the last minute. Like I said, it might take you a little bit of practice to get good at it. But it's actually a really cool lab, and it shows you how can you count millions of bacteria um, in the laboratory setting. So that lab quiz is worth 12 points, and that'll get us to the into week 5. So let's see. So our week 5 where we have our last lab practical. Okay, so you're going to need to be able to do this, counting bacteria and calculating them in that week 5 lab practical. So good luck with week 4. Please contact me if you have any questions or any thoughts, and I appreciate the emails that you're sending me. I try to respond quickly, so you want to chat, I'm glad to do that. You guys take care and happy week 4. Good luck.